So today I'm doing another video reaction to music that I wrote in high school. We've looked at piano music and a symphony from 2014. We've looked at string quartets that I wrote in late 2015 and early 2016. And throughout these previous three videos, we've identified a few common problems with varying degrees of presence throughout these different pieces. Now, the biggest problem in my view was an inability to develop ideas in conjunction with the pressure that I felt to make my pieces' durations comparable to classical pieces. There's not necessarily anything wrong with having ideas that don't get developed, but if you try and do that in a 10 to 15 minute long thing, it gets stale fast, and that's a lot of what we had. Another common problem has been harmonic staleness. 1-4-5-1. Again, nothing wrong with these chords. I love a little 1-4-5-1 from time to time, but it can't be the only thing you do. Again, especially in a piece that's like 10 minutes long. So what I want to do today is look at the two ends of the spectrum of music that I wrote in high school. We're going to look at the first piece I ever wrote, and then we're going to look at a piece that I very much remember being a very critical moment for me in terms of feeling like I was actually writing music that I wanted to write. So without further ado, let's listen to Frostpoint Mountain for string orchestra from the year of our Lord 2013. The 1-4-5-1 pretty quick there. Okay, that's the first like section. I think it just repeats again. Yeah, there's some like ornaments and such. Okay, so the beginning we got a pretty strong hook, I think, in this downward D major arpeggio thing. And actually, like, things are being kept pretty well in motion despite the rhythmic language immediately easing up. Like the cellos, the violins have a thing, and then the cellos immediately respond to that and sort of carry through. So it sort of keeps it in motion. And yeah, it sure is a D major tune. Let's hear the beginning of it again. Yeah, it's not great. It's not terrible. It's, you know, it's what it is. And I actually do like how it is here at A. That's like a very natural feeling thing. Da 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 da. You know, you have the second half of the little idea is the same, but then the first note like moves. You know, that's a cool thing. And there must be a term for that. That's like a very common thing in music. Stolen Abgesang. That's not it. Also noticing like there's counterpoint, which is interesting. I feel like I didn't really do that at all after this point. Now remember, this is sort of I have no idea what I'm doing land with regard to like chords and stuff. Like some of that is pretty evident. Like there's obvious like D major chords and stuff like that and A major chords, but they're not like fully voiced, which is sometimes, I think, to the benefit of this piece. But there's like clear function without necessarily having the whole entire chord. The dynamics, wow, I mean, just this chunk shows us what a disaster it is. They're just really all over the place. I like that the first violins are the only ones who, what is going on here with this? It must be like showing out how the trill plays. But I like that the first violins here are the only ones who move to fortissimo. That's pretty great. Yeah, I think the weirdest thing about this is how like fragmented the like individual parts are. Like you can see, like, you can hear that from the very beginning. Or if we let's listen to this part. So that's an idea, and then this line starts And the first violins ditch it, and then the second violins take it, but not at the same octave as the first violins. Yeah, and the like ideas that get introduced don't necessarily continue. Like this bass arpeggio thing just goes away. Same with the like second violin accompaniment. And yeah, this line is really weird. Da 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 da, where like these guys, the violas just join after it's already started rather than like being with them the whole time. But the first have this other thing. It's very, very strange. It's distributed across the instruments in a very weird way. But yeah, like I said, I think it just repeats once it gets to C. Yeah, but it's like quieter. Da 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 da. It's quiet now. And there's ornaments. Ready? Ready for the ornaments? Amazing. And now it's harmonized. Whoa. Whoa, what the hell? This is like the wrong chord. Okay, hold up. Nothing has sounded like that out of place so far. Listen to the basses. Oh, I'm gonna boost them. Listen to the basses. It's just... And then that happens. That's just like a weird... Why does it play like that? You can see the like A sharps and the weird thing right there. This is really weird. Those are just like the wrong... No, like I'm not saying I didn't write it like that. I did write it like that, but those are just straight up like that is not right. I like how these bars of rest and the seconds of viola are marked legato. That's really nice. And this is like a coda section. Hey, we get the downward arpeggio back. Lovely 5-1, but again, it's not quite what I would have written a year later or several months later. Like the basses are more committed to this melodic voice of T re do rather than 5-1. You know, like there's no A in the bottom in the. I'm saying bass as like not necessarily like the basses as the instruments, but like the bass voice is not on an A, that's definitely what I would have done after this point because it's the law. Yeah, I mean obviously there's a lot of strangeness which I expected, and this melody is actually kind of fresh in my head for reasons that I will get to in a moment. So the melody itself wasn't really shocking. The harmony is weird because it's not bound by the restrictions that I felt with most of the stuff that I wrote in high school, but it's also kind of like haphazard. I guess it's just more contrapuntal. Like that's where the priority is, but I don't think I even intended to like write it that way. I just sort of like it just happened. I don't know. It's just really interesting that the first attempt that I made into composition had an emphasis on counterpoint. Like that can't have been a conscious decision. I mean, I certainly think I must have just been following my ears, but I mean that's what a lot of this boils down to in talking about my music after this is I felt like I was composing in a tiny box that I didn't really know how to get out of. So I didn't really follow my ears at all until I got to like the end of 11th grade or so, which we're gonna get to in a sec. But the most fascinating thing to me about this is that the ideas are actually somewhat developed. Like this this cadential motion, this is the first time it happens, right? Yeah, in measured 10, da 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 da, and then a melody spins out of that cadence idea, da 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 da, and then there's another thing, and then yeah, it gets used like really thoroughly. It's not spun into some kind of grandiose thing, but it's like that's development. I mean, the piece is not even like 2 minutes long, but you can just see visually like that a lot of this is derived from itself. I suspect that also has a lot to do with following my ears, as it were. So, okay, the fun thing about this is that we're now going to listen to a piece that I wrote in 2020, the last movement of which was meant to be a fun, fast, short thing. And the theme of the piece at large was snow. The piece is called 3 Coloradan Snowscapes. And I wanted the last movement to be like a fun little alpine skiing type thing. I thought it would be really funny. And I hardly ever do this with pieces from this time, but I thought it would be really funny to take a little bit from this piece, Frostpoint Mountain, which is not a real mountain, by the way, but I had a snowy peak in mind when I wrote it. So I was like, hey, I could totally steal from this. So I want to listen real quick to the result of that and how the ideas are sort of transformed. And so we're just going to listen to the very beginning of Frostpoint Mountain to refresh in your mind the material, the musical material, and then we'll listen to this other thing. Okay, so just remember that little tune and this like arpeggio thing. So listen to this theme here. So you can hear it's the same tune, it's just a little bit transformed. I'm losing it. Those glissandos don't play right, don't worry. Okay, that's as much as we'll listen to. So we have the downward D major arpeggio and the leap from D to A, like sort of marking the start of something, and then the seconds and violas respond to that, and there's this big like D major 7 swell over 3 16th notes, and then it rockets into this other thing with a 10/16 16th note motor in the cellos. But then the actual like literal tune from Frostpoint Mountain is in this. It's in the first violins here. I think when it goes back to this 10/16 right here is when it deviates, and also this response from the second violins is absent, and obviously the rhythm is totally transformed, but it is all of the same pitches at the beginning. So that's just like a thing that I thought would be fun to share, I guess. Okay, and then the other thing that I want to look at is from the other end of the spectrum. I remember this being extremely liberating for me harmonically, and this is a movement from what was a 4-movement piece for strings and piano called the Sky Suite, and all the movements were about various sky features, I guess. Things that happen in the sky. I don't know how to verbally describe this. The third movement, as you can probably tell, is meant to be like a very peaceful thing. What I had in my head was just sort of what you see when you look out the window of a plane. You can see like just the blue and the clouds below you. So yeah, that's what it's about. And the key to this being a formative moment, by the way, I think was actually me sitting down at the piano and just experimenting with different combinations of pitches, which it seems almost astounding that it would take me that long to figure out to do that. But I genuinely thought that harmony had to be learned from a textbook. But anyway, I found myself doing this, and it was just such an eye-opening moment for me. So let's go ahead and listen. Ambiguous notes, ambiguous chords. There are A's in the left hand, but the right hand doesn't form a A major triad. And it's not marked in A major. Sorry, I'm talking over it. And in just those first 10 bars, I've made more interesting music with a stronger sense of identity than anything I had written over 2 years. And it also looks like I discovered the power of the major 7 chord here. Maybe this wasn't my first use of that, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, like I said, we have A's in the left hand of the piano with these sort of, the B, D, and the E sort of prioritizes second. So the B forms a second with the A, and the E and the D form a second. And then there's this A major-ish figure in the pizzicato violins, but there's no G sharp, so it's like an A Mixolydian type deal. And then more seconds in the violas on these like sustained notes. Basses also go to hold an A, and the cellos do this D fifth pattern thing. So it's all just sort of like washy, you know what I mean? And yeah, discovering that voice was really something. Discovering this language, I guess. Still seeing a lot of major seconds, which is still a prominent part of my harmonic language. Little melodic fragments. Big, luscious chords there. I think it's well paced. I saved the big chords for a little later in it. And then this is just a major second, but plus an octave, major ninth. Yeah, this is like major seconds the piece. Film score edition. I think that's the first explicit G triad, but it's not approached by a 5 chord. I think this is like the climax of the movement. Yeah, looks like it. And it makes sense. This is one instance in which I'll accept the whole notes, you know, in terms of the accompaniment. There's big melody development thing there. And then we have the original texture again. And then, yeah. And then the piano gets it. Not a Sejuras. A violin solo. Oh, that's a cool chord. I'm gonna beef that volume up a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of their pianissimo that they have. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And then very simple E minor 7 in the piano. And look, the basses don't have a low E. It's all vague. And then there's a fourth movement. Yeah, it's all like floaty. It's all floaty and nice. Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty blocky and underdeveloped, but like harmonically, it's just so much more interesting than everything else that I did up to then. Okay, so what can be gleaned from this? I think this was a combination of a number of things. First of all, really feeling like I had been trapped for a long time and finally making the decision to search for a solution at the piano. I did virtually all my composing on the computer up to this point. Yeah, I don't know if that's the way that you've operated as well, and you're finding yourself having similar challenges to what I've described, then I'd recommend trying to spend a significant amount of composing time with an instrument or even just your voice. The other thing I think was the awareness of music that didn't quite fit the rules of what I had been learning in music theory. My assumption in beginning to study music theory was that it would eventually lead up to the present day, so to speak. And it seemed like no matter how much I looked at the scores of the composers that I wanted to write like, I couldn't understand like which rules they were following. And so I thought, oh, I'll just wait to get to that part in music theory. I think at a certain point I had had enough waiting and just decided to feel around in the dark on the piano and experience sounds. And yeah, again, for anyone who might happen to be facing a similar problem, that is absolutely my recommendation to you as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing if you've not already done so. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks so much. I'll see you next time.